The Sydney Swans are another victim to the grand final curse. Since 2000, every team that has been defeated by more than 40 points in the grand final has not been able to reach the preliminary final stage, yet alone another grand final in the following year's season. For the Swans, they will not be a part of the final series. It's been a strange season and perhaps a predictable one. Everyone could see their top tier quality in their side, but the unknown of a new coach in Dean Cox, paired with key injuries and the uneasiness around the signature of superstar Chad Warner, added up to a shaky start at best. But as the season has progressed, the Swans got their mojo back and look likely to bounce back up the ladder in 2026, and as always, look to be in the market during the upcoming trade period. It was a rough introduction for Dean Cox. It's always hard to take over from such an admired coach like John Longmire, even though Cox had been on the coaching panel at the Swans since 2017, and again, even more difficult after another flat grand final performance. But luck was not on his side. Before opening round against Hawthorn, already had his hands tied behind his back to a degree. Errol Goulden needed surgery on his ankle, taking away the side's best kick and outside player. Captain Callum Mills had a plantar fascia tear, taking away a defender or midfield option, and up forward, youngster Logan McDonald had a raft of concerns, resulting in him missing this year. It's a key player out in each line and forced Cox to get creative. Now Sam Wicks had a great year reinvented as a small lockdown defender, but that was just about it from the tactical moves. The Tom McCartan forward experiment lasted about a month, and Cox later admitted it was an error, and the hopeful improvement of young players and the middle tier just didn't happen in the first half of the season. Justin McInerney, Oliver Florent, James Rowbottom, Angus Sheldrick, Braden Campbell and Matt Roberts are some that just couldn't consistently get above a 6 or 7 out of 10 in their performances for most weeks. Pair this with Isaac Heaney, Chad Warner and Brodie Grundy's mediocre form compared to 2024, and it's why the Swans sat with just 4 wins at the end of round 12. Before his 100th game, Chad Warner said, "It was more of the off-field stuff around the club as well, in terms of standards, where we kind of let slip a little bit that we wouldn't in the past. It was clear to see on field that the Swans were just off. Felt like everything compounded from that grand final, and Warner himself admitted the squad wasn't as sharp as they should have been." But that did change in the back end of the season. In their last 12 games, the Swans finished with a record of 8 wins and just 3 losses. Now there is a freedom that teams can play with when the season is all but over, but there have been landmark wins already under Cox, which are a great sign. Beating the reigning premiers by 2 points at the Gabba, which should have really been 3 or 4 goals, albeit for some junk time, is probably the main one. It proves Sydney could move the ball through the corridor and punish, which is what they did best in 2024. They also beat Fremantle at home by 11 points and pushed the Bulldogs, who just pipped them at the SCG, by 9 points. Now this did coincide with Errol Goulden, Tom Papley and Callum Mills all returning after round 12, showing their quality, but also giving a boost to their teammates. Isaac Heaney had a very strong finish to the season, beating 5 goals in multiple games. The highlight, his 34 disposal, 5-goal game against North Melbourne. Brodie Grundy has boomed into All-Australian ruck calculations, and look back to his 2018 best when he was running around at Collingwood. Even Tom McCartan settled nicely back into defence and has been one of the better key backs in the competition. It's been a far more stable back end of 2025, and the results on field have reflected that. But clearly, the squad still needs improvement. There are big questions for list management when the draft and trade period starts. A marquee key forward is the big one. Does the club back in Logan McDonald to live up to his pick 4 status and return from injury in a Riley Thilthorpe style comeback? Can Joel Amati and Hayden McLean work with him and be good supporting acts? Seems like the club doesn't think the trio have what it takes, and the Herald Sun reported Carlton's Charlie Curnow was on top of their priority list. It makes sense. Curnow has been rumoured he wants out of the Melbourne bubble, and his trade value might be lower than what it was about 2 years ago. He's still 28, in his prime, and will be fully healthy by the start of 2026. The club has also reported to have called on Jamara Ugle-Hagan. I think that's obvious for all to see why. So Kerno has become the main target. Could Ollie Florent and 2 first-round picks do it? Maybe. But Sydney have all their draft selections over the next couple seasons, so they do have plenty to work with if a trade is wanted by all parties. Then there are the decisions around some of the young players. Now McDonald and Florent are included in this discussion, but others like Sheldrick, Campbell and even Rowbottom have had up and down seasons. It's unlikely the Swans will move off these guys, but it is an important off-season to decide where to play them. Campbell has been on a wing and played forward, but always feels like there is more to his game. Sheldrick is an inside bull, so do the Swans give him full reins in the middle at the start of 2026? Like all clubs, it is this type of player that the Swans will be hoping can bounce back and improve next year. But we all know one thing Sydney does great is bounce back as a club. They never really rebuild and are pretty steady in player development. They bounced out of the 2022 Grand Final into a 7th place finish in 2023 and then got to the 2024 Grand Final the season after that. It feels like again 2025 has been the dip year after 2024, but a rise wouldn't be totally unexpected next year. It's just what the Swans do. Now Tom Harley leaving as CEO is a big out, but replacing him with Fremantle legend Matthew Pavlich is exciting. He is successful in the business and media world, but football is his knowledge point. It will be interesting to see what impact he can have in the off-season. It was a bit of a left field choice, but clearly a football focused one to enhance the program, similar to the Graham Wright CEO appointment at Carlton. It wasn't too long ago, Pavlich and Cox were battling it out in the Western Derbies, and now they are both at the Sydney Swans. So the curse for AFL teams who take heavy defeats in the Grand Final continue on. Again, none in the 2000s have been able to make it past the semi-final stage the following season. Sydney was a unique example this year because of Longmire giving up the senior coaching gig and the key injuries they had, but I think there is potential for a significant bounce back. A 9-3 record in the second half of the season is no joke, and the return to form of their stars has been pretty quick. It's probably about the trade period and trying to land that marquee key forward, and if they can, a lot of people will have the Swans as big movers in 2026. History tells us not many clubs bounce back better than the Sydney Football Club.